The 11th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m. Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news. Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, here is your host, Kathy Wyatt.
23.7 million, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. That's how many military veterans were living in the United States in 2006. Of those, 162,000 live in Nebraska. Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, veterans, specifically eligibility and benefits. Joining us today to talk about that are Al Washko, Director of the Nebraska Western Iowa Healthcare System, which is part of the Veterans Health Administration, Bernie Brosnahan, Veterans Service Officer for Douglas County, and Tom Pascal, Community Sales for Rolling Hills Ranch, an independent living community here in Omaha. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thanks,
and
Kathy.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Al, we are going to start off with you. Before we get too far into the interview, we do have a graphic that communicates the three administrative departments in the U.S. VA. Could you talk about those briefly?
Thank you, Kathy. The Department of Veterans Affairs is the second largest cabinet department in the federal government. And it has three main departments. The Veterans Health Administration that provides health care to about 5 million veterans each year. The Veterans Benefits Administration that provides compensation and educational benefits. And the National Cemetery Administration, which has 141 cemeteries in it.
And you deal directly with the Veterans Health Administration. And before, again, we get too far in, we wanted to show folks the mission statement so that they know exactly what we're talking about. And we do have a graphic for that. To maintain and improve the health and well-being of veterans by providing quality health care, easy access, and to be a patient-centered, integrated organization providing excellence in healthcare, research, and education. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're accomplishing this mission, obviously, in a lot of ways, but we're going to talk specifically about three of those today. Community-based outpatient clinics, Operation Enduring Freedom Iraqi Freedom Outreach Program, and Suicide Prevention, Awareness and Treatment Program. Could you briefly walk us through each one of those programs?
I'd be happy to do that, Kathy. I might say, just as an introductory remark or two, that we take care of about 50,000 enrolled veterans in the state of Nebraska in 5 different locations currently, soon to be 8 because we're going to be opening some outpatient clinics. And let me get to the subject of outpatient clinics. We currently have outpatient clinics in Grand Island, Lincoln, North Platte, Norfolk, and Holdrege, Nebraska. And we're planning on opening some within the next year in Bellevue, Nebraska, Shenandoah, Nebraska, and O'Neill, Nebraska. And that has to do with the part of the mission statement that talks about access. We're trying to create additional access. We're also experimenting with having occasional outpatient clinics. And we've been operating one in Wayne, Nebraska, 1 day a month in the State Armory there. In our outpatient clinics, we provide a wide variety of services. In all of the clinics, we provide primary care, and in all of our clinics, we have some amount of psychiatric or mental health care. In our larger clinics, Lincoln and Grand Island, we offer some specialty care. In our smaller clinics in North Platte and Holdrege, we offer only primary care and mental health care. We're beginning to use a lot of telemedicine, Kathy, so that when people go to one of our smaller clinics, say in Holdrege, they can call a specialist in Omaha, say an orthopedic specialist, where there might be some consultation over the teleconferencing system about someone's knee that might be in question in some fashion.
Okay. And the second one that we alluded to was the Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom Outreach Program. Talk to us about that.
Yes, Enduring Freedom really refers to our combat veterans who are serving mostly in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we are naturally focusing lots of energy on taking care of our returning warriors from the battle theater. We have several goals with our focus on combat veterans. The first is to try to reach out to every one of them. So currently, we're caring for, in some fashion, about 3,500 veterans. We think there are in the neighborhood of about 4,000 combat veterans that have returned, but we expect more yet as the effort continues. We're also working with the Department of Defense, Kathy, and the National Guard, particularly to have pre-deployment discussions with veterans and their families. That is, one of our mental health professionals might fly in a National Guard helicopter to a National Guard base where someone is going to be, a group of soldiers are going to be deployed perhaps next week. And we'll have discussions with veterans and often their families about what they might expect, what some of the dangers might be, particularly leading to post-traumatic stress. As you know, our troops are in constant danger. And so there is an increasing risk in guerrilla wars and in these constant danger situations of post-traumatic stress. We actually expect maybe 1/3 to 40% of all veterans will show signs of post-traumatic stress syndrome at some time after their deployment. In addition to pre-deployment work, we're obviously putting a lot of effort in post-deployment work. And so as veterans are discharged from the military, we try to be there at the discharging bases so we can let them know what their benefits are. We try actually to sign them up for a pre-deployment appointment as soon as they can make it, and we want to be available to take a look at any post-combat conditions that might be there. We particularly want to screen for post-traumatic stress syndrome and traumatic brain injuries. Traumatic brain injuries, Kathy, are really one of the signature problems and sequelae, so to speak, of this war, where our troops, our sons and daughters, are exposed to these exploding devices in the streets. And so we are screening every veteran for traumatic brain injury. Finally, we're educating health professionals throughout the state about how to recognize traumatic brain injury or how to recognize post-traumatic stress syndrome. And so we've had one well-attended teleconference in the state of Nebraska on this subject. We had over 300 healthcare professionals attended that, Kathy. And we're getting ready for our second one. We'll probably do a third one shortly so that we can invite police officers throughout the state, because they're often the first to see veterans who are exhibiting symptoms of post-traumatic stress. So we'd like to help them recognize the symptoms and know where to refer veterans, Kathy.
I would imagine that has got to be quite a challenging thing for you to be able to do and do effectively. Talk to us about kind of the human aspect there. What do you run into when you are working with these individuals? What are some of the biggest challenges that you do face, just from a human perspective that we can all relate with? Because this is obviously very difficult for us to understand, not having been there. So,
Kathy, it's a very moving experience to work with people who have been in the war theater and have experienced some of the trauma of war. I can think of an example of a veteran who had to shoot a young child. And this has tormented him for years. He had to shoot the child because the child was throwing hand grenades at his group. And he has flashbacks still years after his battle. And we often find that veterans have real difficulty talking about their experiences, often because they've been so horrific. We had a focus group for returning combat veterans just last week, and we heard from a young lady who was just extraordinarily tearful as she described, but then had to stop even, describing her experiences and how she's working with our mental health professionals to help her deal with the aftermath of all that.
Understandably then, and sadly, you do read about the number of suicides going up among this particular population, and I know that there are things that you're doing in that area as well. Talk to us a little bit about that particular program.
Yeah, Kathy, we're trying to be very active in dealing with suicide prevention. We know from a number of studies that veterans have higher suicide rates than non-veterans. And so we've put up a national hotline that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're doing what we can to advertise that. As a matter of fact, for the first time, the Department of Veterans Affairs is going to start buying advertising in the media so that we can advertise the availability of this suicide hotline. The number for any of your viewers isn't too hard to remember. It's 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K.
Great.
We're also spending a great deal of time training all of our staff, which includes frontline clerks, police officers who are patrolling the parking lots, housekeeping personnel, everyone, nurses, doctors of course, to recognize the symptoms of suicide ideation and to know how to refer veterans for help if they are exhibiting signs of thinking about suicide. Naturally, we offer a wide array of treatment programs for veterans who might be suicidal, who are depressed and have other mental health disorders. Kathy, we're even going so far as checking with veterans who miss their mental health appointments. So if somebody doesn't show up for a scheduled appointment, we call them at least 3 times before we begin looking for them sometimes. And finally, I'd point out that we've developed a treatment method in mental health that ends with a brief suicide screen at the end of every mental health appointment, Kathy, so that we can feel assured that we're doing everything we can to screen for suicide ideation. And generally, the public needs to realize that suicide is really one of the leading causes of death, and we need to be responsive to signs of that to help our brothers and sisters.
And it sounds like you are taking a very proactive approach, very important and meaningful work that you're doing in the Veterans Health Administration. Thank you for sharing that and informing us a little bit more about what that entails. Now, Bernie, I know that we've covered that as much as we're probably going to be able to cover that in the time allocated. You're here today to talk with us a little bit about the Veterans Benefits. Can you walk us through the programs that you have to offer?
If it were that easy. The Veterans Benefit Program is a maze. Basically, veterans are, we have 2 categories. We have service-connected benefits and we have what we call a non-service connected pension. Those are the major financial programs at the VBA. The Service Connected involves, and all of these involve filling out applications, paperwork. They go from our office, usually when we are involved in it, down to the regional office in Lincoln, and it takes about 6 months for the regional office to respond with a yes or a no on that benefit, which is very good considering that probably the rest of the country, it's anywhere from a year to a year and a half. The benefits can vary from Service Connected as far as monetary compensation per month. There can be educational benefits, a voc rehab program. The non-service connected pension portion of the benefit, you have to be a wartime veteran. Now, you don't have to serve in a war area, but you have to be in during that period. It's kind of a safety net that was put into the system for people who, for one reason or the other, don't have adequate Social Security for themselves in their later years, or if it's in their earlier years and they just don't have the hours or the quarters put in, it's a safety net there so that they have something, some kind of income. The voc rehab program is based on usually a 20% disability is involved, and that can involve education through institutions such as UNO, on-the-job training, and a variance of things. And it also has to do with the quality of life, so it's not just education. If a person needs a particular item for their quality of life, then it's possible voc rehab can provide that. The programs usually are so complicated that I would strongly advise that anybody who's has an idea that they want to put in for a benefit to contact the county service officer in their county. I'm not trying to drum up business, but it just becomes a hair-pulling experience when you try and do it yourself.
Right.
So.
And everybody wants to help, obviously. There is something unique called the Nebraska Veterans Aid Fund.
Correct.
Can you talk with us a little bit about that assistance program?
The Nebraska Veterans Aid Fund is a pool of money that was put into effect in 1921. The legislature set aside $2 million into this pool, and it's separate from everything else. The legislature cannot touch it to put it into the general fund, so it's been earmarked. Since its conception, it's grown quite a bit. From the years 44 through 47, they added $2 million per year. During the close of the Vietnam era, they added a couple more million. And right now, through the guidance of the Nebraska Veterans Office, there's $35 million in that pool. Now, they can only spend the interest that comes in from that. They can never touch the principal. Last year, I understand that the state returned to the veterans in the form of assistance over $700,000 from that pool, or from the interest from that. It entails an application process. There has to be a financial emergency that was through no fault of the veteran. If you're fired or quit your job, naturally you wouldn't qualify. And there has to be a real need. The basic areas that it covers would be housing, rent or mortgage, food for the family, and utilities.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about housing, in particular the 4 veterans' homes across the state of Nebraska. Talk to us briefly about that, and then Tom, we'll get to you on more of a local level here.
Okay.
So,
the state of Nebraska has 4 nursing care centers or assisted living facilities. They're in Scottsbluff, Grand Island, Norfolk, and now in Bellevue. Bellevue took the place of the Thomas Fitzgerald home out on Maple Street here. Once again, they're set up strictly for wartime era veterans. You have to have served at least 1 day during a war period. They're based on an income ability to pay for your care. At this point, the maximum they can charge a veteran is $3,000 per month. Now, that does sound like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money for most people. However, that can be adjusted by the person's income, and depending upon whether or not there's a spouse outside of the veteran's home, it takes about 10 days to get an initial response on your application. showing that you meet the prerequisites, the state residency, the honorable discharge, etc. However, it can take a little longer to actually get in the home. There's usually a waiting list. Unfortunately, when you call and ask how many people are on the waiting list for the Eastern Nebraska home, you may get a number like 50, when in reality, of that 50, 25 won't go in. They'll just bypass when it comes time. There will be some people who will die during that period, or some who just choose to go to a different home.
Okay, and Tom, locally, there is assistance available and there are options available for folks too. We just heard about 4 homes across the state, but locally we're finding that senior living communities are taking much more of a vested interest and really trying to accommodate this population.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us specifically about what your organization is doing and what we might be able to learn from that.
Right. I'm with Rolling Hills Ranch, which is a independent living community here in the Omaha area. And we're part of Holiday Retirement Corporation, so we're not a part of the government. We're not a part of the Veterans Administration at all. But what we do, we work with the service organization who's connected to the Veterans Coalition and a part of the Veterans Department of Veterans Affairs, and they are accredited with the Veterans Administration to help individuals, wartime veterans. This is the non-service connected that Bernie was talking about, benefit that he was talking about. We help individuals. What we do at Rolling Hills Ranch is we use this service organization to help us qualify individuals for us, usually housebound, but for instance, in Omaha also, another affiliate is called Westgate Assisted Living. They do probably more aid and attendance, and so there's those 2 benefits that are kind of applicable for us, and so that's what we do, and we spend a lot of time helping and educating veterans and their spouses or their deceased spouse. There's benefits for all of those, and it's kind of an ongoing thing. And one of the things that happens so often is this has been around since 1958, and people come into my office and I usually get a nice slap on the counter and they say, "Why don't we know about this?" Well, these folks are under a lot of pressure to do what they do with the budget that they have. There's really no one who is charged with the responsibility to get the word out with a budget, in other words. I mean, there's some people who are doing those things, but it's very hard to get the word. So we're trying to get the word out. We're trying to pass it on that there are some benefits available for veterans who have wartime service, service. So.
Now, since a lot of what we do and the benefits that are gained are through networking, Tom, there are going to be some people that will be watching this show across the state of Nebraska who have some sort of affiliation with senior living communities. Talk to us about what you would advise them to do to get something up and running in their own town that would be able to enhance what's already available, to help educate them about what's offered.
Mm-hmm. Well, probably what Bernie was talking about was so true. I mean, people get so frustrated because the most common thing to do is you find out about this great benefit. You go onto the internet, you download the application, and as soon as that application comes and you start filling out, you think, I can do this, and you fill it out, and then there's problems, and that's when the hair pulling starts and things like that happens. So what you do is you need help, and he had some suggestions for how to help. We have other senior living communities could also possibly in other cities, not in Omaha maybe, be an affiliate of the Senior Veterans of America also, and they can contact me, of course, or the Senior Veterans. I don't have their number with me, but actually I do. It's 877-814-8367.
Okay.
So, and that's the way they can contact them and see if they might be able to channel in.
Sounds like a very good idea. And Bernie, I guess I'd be curious after listening to what Tom has to say, and Al too, for this to be done on a local level, to really get out there, we in the senior care industry especially are trying to educate folks on what's available to them. Bernie, what would your comments be to the programs or the education that Tom and his folks are initiating here?
Well, anytime we can educate the veterans or the dependents for a benefit, it's a boon. those benefits are out there and they should utilize them if they're qualified. Our office has gone out to several of the care facilities here in Omaha and made presentations to them at their request. And it's so hard without the budget, you know.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Contact your local veterans organization, your American Legion, VFW, DAV. If you get involved in that, then they have mailers that are coming out periodically, and they carry the latest information.
Okay, very good. And at the beginning of the show, we mentioned the three main areas, and we did not touch on the third one. And Bernie, I'm going to challenge you because we don't have a lot of time left for you to sum up the National Cemetery Administration for those people interested in that.
Okay, in Nebraska currently we only have one national cemetery, and that Fort McPherson out at Maxwell, Nebraska. In order to qualify, you have to have an honorable discharge. They will provide a plot, the headstone, and the burial at no cost to those veterans who request it. However, you can't make any arrangements in advance. It has to be a time of need. For any of these benefits, if they want to call 1-800-827-1000, that's the national line for those.
Okay. Very useful information. And we do have some graphics that we wanted to put up here at the end of the show with some additional information. And while we're getting to those, Al, any final comments that you want to make?
We're looking to try to contact all combat veterans that we can, and I would say if our viewers are aware of any combat veterans in need, please refer them to the VA. We'd like to offer them whatever health benefits they might require.
Excellent. And here is that graphic, www.vets.state.ne.us, and that number is there, or www.va.gov. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we've been a great help to folks today. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to call that number. In the meantime, we want to thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours. The 11th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.